The Velek ship cut through the dark void of space, its sleek form gleaming under the distant stars. On board, the crew remained silent, their eyes fixed on the enormous screen displaying Earth below. Captain Zalver stood in front of it, his sharp eyes scanning the blue planet. A sense of curiosity mixed with unease filled his mind. The mission was simple: recover the mysterious object that had been detected by their advanced sensors. Yet something about it felt wrong. The signal it emitted had baffled the best minds in Velek science. It was too powerful, yet so simple. He had heard of humanity, the species known for their stubbornness, their ability to survive against all odds. But Zalver had never given much thought to their potential, until now. The artifact they had found was unlike anything the Velek had ever encountered. It was not advanced in appearance, nor did it seem special in any way. Yet its power was undeniable. The signal it sent out was so strange, so alien, that the Velek had no choice but to investigate. "Prepare to land," Zalver commanded, his voice calm but laced with a hint of tension. The crew quickly moved to their stations, preparing for the descent to Earth. As the ship approached the planet, Zalver couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change everything. Something about this mission didn't sit right with him. But he was the captain. He had to trust the mission. He had to trust that the object held the answers they needed. The ship touched down on Earth's surface with barely a sound. The alien atmosphere outside the ship felt thick and foreign to Zalver. The air was different from the sterile, controlled environment of his ship. He could feel the weight of the planet's gravity pressing against him. He took a deep breath, the first time in his life feeling truly small in the grand scheme of the universe. The crew assembled outside the ship, their boots crunching in the dirt as they made their way toward the site where the object had been discovered. It had been buried beneath a layer of soil, hidden from view for who knew how long. Zalver had seen the scans, but they didn't explain why this object was so important. The team quickly worked to unearth it, revealing a small, weathered box. It was about the size of a human hand, nothing remarkable about it, just a simple metallic cube covered in strange symbols. Zalver knelt down and gently lifted the object. He felt an odd sense of reverence, as if this tiny box held secrets that were meant to be unlocked. But he couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something, something that everyone else had overlooked. "What do we know about it?" he asked the lead scientist, Valra. Valra examined the box closely, her fingers tracing the symbols. "We've run every test we can, Captain. There's no indication of what it could be, but the energy readings, they're unlike anything we've ever encountered. It's almost as if it's alive." Zalver frowned. "Alive?" she nodded, looking up at him with wide eyes. "It's giving off a pulse, a rhythm, almost like it's communicating with us. But we can't decipher it. The technology is too advanced for us to understand." Zalver's curiosity deepened. The Velek had encountered countless alien species, some far older and more advanced than humanity. But this artifact, it was something different. The energy readings it emitted were unmistakable, and the symbols, those symbols were human. Or at least, they resembled the primitive language humans used in their ancient texts. He couldn't help but wonder why this simple species had left behind something so powerful. What was the true purpose of this object? Was it just a relic from a long-forgotten past, or was it something more? "We need to bring it aboard the ship," Zalver ordered, his voice steady but tinged with a new urgency. "Let's see if we can learn more." Back aboard the Velek ship, the crew began to study the object. Zalver remained at the center of the operation, his mind working tirelessly to unlock the mystery that lay before them. The object sat on a table in the ship's lab, surrounded by high-tech equipment. Valra stood by the console, inputting commands as the machine hummed with activity. But the more they studied it, the less they understood. The symbols on the box seemed to shift and change, almost as if they were mocking their attempts to understand. Zalver leaned closer to it, feeling an inexplicable pull. He ran his fingers over the surface of the box, tracing the symbols, hoping for some sign, some clue that would explain it all. But there was nothing, just the strange pulse of energy, quiet but ever-present. Suddenly, as his fingers brushed against a specific symbol, the box emitted a low hum. The energy from it surged through Zalver's body, sending a jolt of electricity into his system. He stumbled back, surprised by the intensity of the sensation. The pulse had become stronger, more insistent. His mind seemed to race, flashing with images he couldn't quite understand. He saw a human standing tall, holding the box in their hands. The human's eyes were filled with determination, their face set in a look of defiance. The scene was fleeting, disappearing as quickly as it had come, but Zalvar felt the weight of it. There was something profound in that image, something powerful. "What did you see?" Valra asked, her voice filled with concern. Zalvar shook his head, his mind still reeling from the vision. "I saw a human. They were holding the box just like we are, but their eyes, it felt like they knew something we don't. It felt like they were waiting for something." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Zalvar had been affected by the artifact. It was clear that the object was more than just a simple relic. It was calling to them in a way that they couldn't yet understand. Zalvar stepped back from the table, his gaze fixed on the artifact. "There's more to this. I can feel it. But we need to be careful. This object, it's not just a piece of history. It's a key to something we don't yet comprehend." As the ship continued its journey through the stars, Zalvar could not shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something momentous. They had uncovered a secret, a power far greater than they had anticipated. And yet all they had was a box, a simple, weathered object. How could something so small hold so much potential? As the days passed, the crew worked tirelessly to decode the symbols, to understand the mysterious energy that the artifact emitted. But no matter how hard they tried, they were no closer to unlocking its secrets. The object remained silent, its pulse steady but impenetrable. The more Zalvar studied it, the more certain he became that this artifact was no ordinary relic. It was a sign, a message from the past, and it was calling them, calling humanity, calling the Vilek. There was something about this object that was far bigger than they could understand, and it would change everything. Days passed as the Vilek crew labored on their ship, studying the mysterious object they had found on Earth. The artifact rested on a secure table, surrounded by a variety of tools and monitors designed to analyze the strange energies it emitted. Captain Zalvar remained at the center of the operation, his mind as restless as the pulse emanating from the box. Each passing day brought new questions, yet no answers. As Zalvar stood before the artifact, the weight of it pressed upon him. The object was unlike anything he had ever encountered. Its simplicity was deceiving, its power undeniable. Every time he touched it, he felt that strange pull again, the sensation of being connected to something ancient, something lost to time. It was as though the box had a mind of its own, a purpose that it was waiting to reveal. But what was it? His thoughts were interrupted by Valra, the ship's lead scientist, who had been tirelessly working to decode the symbols carved into the surface of the box. She had been studying them day and night, but they remained stubbornly unreadable. No matter how many translations they ran through the ship systems, the meaning behind the markings remained elusive. "We're missing something," Valra muttered to herself, frustration clear in her voice. Zalvar glanced over at her. "What do you mean?" She turned to face him, her face pale from lack of sleep. "The symbols, they don't fit into any of the known languages of the galaxy. They don't match anything we've encountered before. It's almost as if they're part of a language that doesn't belong in our galaxy at all." Zalvar raised an eyebrow. "So you're saying this is not of Vilek origin or even of any known species?" She nodded. "Exactly, this is something else." The implications of her words hung in the air, heavy and unnerving. If this object was truly foreign to the Vilek, then what was it? Where did it come from? Why was it here? And what was its connection to humanity? As the days turned into weeks, Zalvar's obsession with the box grew. His crew noticed the change in him. The calm, calculated captain they had once known was becoming more and more withdrawn, his thoughts consumed by the artifact. He no longer slept for long periods, often sitting alone in the lab, staring at the box, as if expecting it to speak to him. One evening, as Zalvar sat alone, his fingers tracing the symbols once more, something changed. He felt a sudden jolt of energy, stronger than before. It was as if the box had recognized him. The hum that had once been subtle now vibrated through the very walls of the ship. Zalvar stepped back, his breath catching in his throat. The artifact was responding. "But why now? Captain, are you all right?" Valra's voice came from the doorway, her concern evident. Zalvar didn't answer right away. He was too focused on the object in front of him, feeling a surge of energy unlike anything he had ever experienced. Slowly, the symbols on the box began to glow. It wasn't much, just a faint shimmer, but it was enough to send a wave of awe and fear through Zalvar. Then, as if in answer to his unspoken question, a series of images flashed before his eyes, visions from another time, another place. The images were blurry at first, but they soon sharpened. He saw a vast battlefield, smoke and fire filling the sky. Soldiers, but not just any soldiers, humans, standing tall against an unimaginable enemy. There were no words, no sounds, just the fierce determination in their eyes, the strength in their posture. The vision faded as quickly as it had come. Zalvar was left breathless, his mind racing. He had seen something, a memory perhaps, but from whom, from what, and why was it showing him this? "Captain," Valra asked, her voice breaking through his thoughts. "What happened?" Zalvar shook his head, trying to clear the haze of confusion that had settled over him. I saw something," he muttered. "A vision, humans, they were fighting something." Valra's eyes widened. "Fighting something? What do you mean?" Zalvar looked down at the box, his fingers still trembling. "I don't know, it wasn't clear, but there was a sense of purpose, of strength. These humans, they were united in a way that felt familiar, like they had been through something unimaginable and survived. Like they had faced an enemy no one could even imagine and fought back." Valra stepped forward, placing her hand on his shoulder. "Captain, you've been under a lot of stress. Maybe it's just a side effect of the artifact's energy. We don't know what it's doing to you." But Zalvar knew it was more than that. The vision felt real. It felt like a message, a warning. He stood up abruptly, his mind made up. "We need to investigate further. There's more to this object than just its power. It's connected to humanity's past. To something they faced, something that changed everything." Valra hesitated but nodded. "You're right, but we need to be careful. If we don't understand it, we could be walking into something we're not prepared for." Zalvar looked at the box one last time. "We have no choice. The answers are here, and we need to find them." Over the next few days, Zalvar and Valra worked tirelessly to uncover more of the box's secrets. The object's pulse seemed to grow stronger, as though it was aware of their efforts. The crew, now nervous and restless, kept their distance, sensing that the captain was becoming consumed by the artifact. Yet, despite their concern, none dared to intervene. Then, on the fourth day after Zalvar's vision, something remarkable happened. As the crew gathered in the ship's main hall, a loud chime rang through the entire ship, something they had never heard before. It was a signal, sharp and clear, reverberating throughout every corner of the Vilek vessel. The crew rushed to the source of the sound, only to find Zalvar standing by the box, his eyes wide in shock. The symbols on the surface of the artifact had changed. They were no longer random. They had begun to form a coherent pattern, one that Valra could now read. "It's a message," she said, her voice trembling. "A message from humanity's past, from before they were ever discovered by us." Zalvar's heart raced. This was it. They were about to uncover the truth. Valra ran her fingers over the symbols, typing commands into the nearby console to record the message. It was a long sequence, intricate and detailed, but the translation was slow at first. Then, as the console displayed the message, both Zalvar and Valra froze. The message read, "Humanity fought against an enemy that would have destroyed us all. We hid the truth from the universe, for we knew the power we wielded. But now it is time for the universe to know. The key to our survival lies within the past. It is waiting. And when the time comes, you will understand." Zalvar's voice was barely a whisper. "The key to survival?" Valra looked up from the console, her eyes wide. This could change everything." For the first time since their journey began, Zalvar understood. The artifact wasn't just an object of curiosity. It was a warning, a reminder. Humanity had faced something terrible, and they had won. But in doing so, they had hidden the truth, hidden the key to their survival. The universe was on the brink of discovering that humanity wasn't just a small, insignificant species. They were a force to be reckoned with. And the artifact was their message to the stars. We are not to be underestimated. The days that followed were filled with a mixture of excitement and dread. Zalvar stood at the helm of the Vilek ship, his mind racing with the implications of the message they had uncovered. The artifact, humanity's mysterious object, was not just a relic from the past. It was a key that could unlock a power that no one, not even the Vilek, fully understood. Zalvar could feel the weight of it pressing down on him, the truth too big to ignore. Whatever lay ahead, humanity had prepared for it long ago. But what had they hidden? And why? As the crew worked tirelessly to analyze the message, Zalvar couldn't help but be consumed by the sense that time was running out. The artifact had not just sent them a warning, it had activated something. Zalvar knew it was only a matter of time before the true purpose of the object would reveal itself. But what if they weren't ready for what was about to happen? Valra spent hours in the lab, studying the artifact's symbols and translating the cryptic messages embedded within it. She had become just as obsessed as Zalvar, each new discovery sending a wave of awe and fear through her. The message had told them humanity had faced an enemy beyond their comprehension, an enemy so great that the survivors had hidden their truth away. And now, that truth was being uncovered piece by piece. One night, as Zalvar stood by the table where the artifact rested, he felt the familiar hum. A low vibration filled the room. He reached out and placed his hand on it. For the first time since it had been uncovered, it felt alive. The power emanating from the object seemed to pulse with purpose, almost as if it was waiting for something. Zalvar could sense it. Something was about to happen. Suddenly, the hum grew louder and the lights in the ship flickered. The crew exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what was happening. Valra rushed into the room, her eyes wide with alarm. "Captain, something's happening. The artifact, it's reacting to us." Zalvar stepped back from the table, his heart racing. The object's glow intensified, its symbols now shifting rapidly, forming new patterns that Valra had never seen before. It was as though the box was speaking to them, telling them something that could no longer be hidden. Zalvar could feel a wave of energy wash over him, his vision blurring for a moment. The room felt as though it was vibrating with the power of the artifact. His mind raced. "What is it? What's happening?" Valra demanded. Zalvar didn't answer at first. He was too focused on the vision that was beginning to form before his eyes. It was like the walls around him faded away, leaving him standing in the middle of an ancient battlefield. He saw humans, thousands of them, fighting against an enemy unlike anything he had ever imagined. Their faces were filled with determination, but they were outnumbered. The alien force they faced seemed unstoppable, yet the humans stood firm, their courage unwavering. In the vision, Zalvar could see them using advanced technology, weapons unlike anything seen in the galaxy. It was clear that the humans had something to fight for, something that gave them the strength to stand against a foe that seemed so much stronger. He saw a human holding an artifact, much like the one in front of him, raising it high as the enemy closed in. And in that moment, there was a shift. The artifact lit up with blinding energy, sending out a shockwave that engulfed the battlefield, disintegrating the enemy forces. The vision faded just as quickly as it had come, leaving Zalvar breathless and shaken. He stumbled backward, his mind struggling to process what he had just witnessed. "Captain," Valra's voice was filled with worry. "What did you see?" Zalvar took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He looked at the artifact, still pulsing with energy. I saw the past. A battle, humans fighting against an enemy that nearly destroyed them. But they didn't just survive, they won. And the artifact, it was the key. It gave them the power to turn the tide." Valra's eyes widened. "The artifact, it's more than just a relic, it's a weapon." Zalvar nodded slowly. "It's a weapon, yes, but more than that, it's a reminder, a warning. Humanity faced something unimaginable, something that could have wiped them out. But they fought back, and they won." The hum of the artifact grew louder, now vibrating through the entire ship. The energy was building, the room charged with an electric atmosphere. Zalvar knew they were on the verge of something monumental. But what would it mean for the Velek, for the universe? Before he could say another word, the entire ship shook violently, throwing Zalvar and Valra to the floor. Alarms blared as the ship's systems went into emergency mode. The crew rushed into the command center, their faces filled with panic. "What's happening?" Zalvar demanded as he struggled to his feet. "We're being pulled out of the system," the communications officer reported, his voice trembling. "Something's interfering with our systems. We can't control the ship." Zalvar's heart sank. The artifact was no longer just a mystery. It was affecting their very existence. The energy it was emitting had grown to an unbearable level, overwhelming the ship's systems and pulling them into an unknown force. "Captain," Valra called out. "The artifact, it's summoning something." Zalvar's mind raced as he tried to make sense of it. "What do you mean?" Valra ran over to the console, her fingers flying over the controls. "The energy is reaching out. It's drawing something to us, something big. Something we're not prepared for." Suddenly, the ship was engulfed in a blinding light, and Zalvar could feel the familiar hum of the artifact grow stronger than ever before. The walls of the ship shook, and the crew struggled to hold their positions. The light grew so intense that Zalvar had to close his eyes. Then, as quickly as it had come, the light faded. The ship was no longer in the familiar surroundings of deep space. Zalvar opened his eyes, and what he saw made his heart stop. They were no longer in their own galaxy. Before them, stretching across the stars, was a vast fleet, an alien force of unimaginable size. Ships of every shape and design filled the space ahead of them, their weapons charged and ready. It was a fleet unlike anything Zalvar had ever seen. And it was headed straight for them. "Captain," Valra whispered, "this is it, the enemy." The artifact had done exactly what it was meant to do. It had summoned the force that humanity had once defeated, a force now returned to reclaim what they had lost. And they had found humanity once again. Zalvar stood in stunned silence, the weight of the moment settling in. The artifact had not just been a weapon, it had been a signal, a call to arms. And now the universe was about to learn the truth about humanity. "We're not ready for this," Valra said, her voice trembling. Zalvar took a deep breath, his resolve hardening. "We don't have a choice. We've awakened something far bigger than ourselves, but we're not backing down. Humanity didn't back down then, and neither will we." The enemy was here, and this time Zalvar knew the Velek would not be the ones to win. The artifact had chosen humanity, and now they would face what had once been defeated. The battle was about to begin again.